Kush's movie review.
Welcome, everyone, to a very special edition of Kush's movie review, exclusively here on the YouTube channel of Waffle Box. It's Oscars season, spelled S-Z-N, season, Oscars season. And so Kush has kindly decided to review each one of the best pictures to determine which one should really win. And we have now stumbled across the Triangle of Sadness. Now, Kush, before we get into the review, do you know, because I looked this up, do you know what the Triangle of Sadness is?
It's actually explained in the first 2 minutes of the movie. It's this little portion right here in between your eyebrow and your eyeballs.
I don't know.
I didn't know that before, though.
I remember them referencing the Triangle of Sadness, but I must have missed the bit where they actually explain. But yes, it's like the between your eyebrows and the bridge of your nose. So that tiny little bit here. Anyway, that's educational. The movie itself, let's talk about it. Do your thing. What's your thoughts on this movie? And if you are a watcher or listener of Waffle Box, sorry, I keep talking over, but because I am not a movie goer. I'm a movie person. I love movies, but I'm not a movie goer. I don't like going to the movie theater, whereas Kush does. So more often than not, he's reviewing a movie that I haven't seen yet. However, this is a rare, exciting time to be alive because Kush is reviewing a movie that I have seen. So what do you go ahead, do your thing. You're a movie guy.
Thanks, Blair. I saw the trailer for Triangle of Sadness and went, this looks like an interesting film. Bunch of rich people on a yacht that capsizes or whatever happens, and they end up on an island. And while those are the strokes of this painting, it takes forever for us to get there and then for anything interesting to happen. Excuse me. It is about 45 minutes for us to be introduced to
the best character.
It's about 20 minutes for us to be introduced to our first two characters. And then they get on the ship, and it's another half hour to be introduced roughly to everyone else. I say roughly because Woody Harrelson doesn't make his entrance until like an hour 15. When he does, he's fine, but he plays a drunk captain of this $250 million yacht cruise. And the movie is it's a commentary on classism, on just the rich versus the poor, etc., etc., etc. A bunch of things that I am missing from my lexicon here. But at some point, the boat not only it thankfully survives a violent ocean storm where like toilets are overflowing, but it's hard to tell if people got sick from the food or if they just got sick from the motion in the ocean. But goddamn, this thing was graphic to the point where you're just like, I don't want to see anymore. This poor Russian lady is covered head to toe in, I imagine, vomit, but she is trying to also diarrhea out her ass and possibly vomit more. But the violence of the ocean is causing the ship to shake that much that she is thrown off the toilet multiple times, and it's just wow. And maybe that is 90 minutes into the movie. There's a slow burn to this.
It's a very slow.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think I have. So the whole build up of this movie is these rich, upper class, out of touch people on this boat, whether they just be rich business people, whatever. There's like influencers. There's a couple of influencers on there and things like that. But there's one point where the whole point is that the crew are told you don't say no to these people. You have to, if they ask you a question, you say yes. And at one point, one of the rich women wants all of this crew to go for a swim.
And it's
And
just like, oh my god, no, I have a job here to do on this ship. Like I can't just stop chopping up onions. I can't just stop cleaning the toilets. I can't just stop making your bed. Like everything revolves around order and prestige and just that because
but this is the
this
thing.
woman
So when
insists.
she insists, and finally they accept, fine,
They all concave.
all the
Yeah. They all submit.
all the staff have to go for a swim, and there is a point. It's very quick, but the head chef says if the food doesn't get served now, it will go bad. And then they go for the swim. So obviously the food. So I think the sickness is a mixture between the food is bad, but also the ship is going
Food
nuts.
goes bad in over a matter of 2 hours. I mean,
I
I,
I know, but
I
it was
find that
it
hard
was
to
very
believe,
much
but
a
I don't have a better answer. I don't have a better answer, and I saw the same movie. Like, yeah,
what's the word foreshadowing. It just seemed very like, what if we go for a swim now? All this food will go bad. And but yes, the vomiting
I
scene
mean,
did seem to last
the
about
chef
30
would know
minutes.
better. The vomiting scene went on forever, and I'm not a guy who gets shaken, but it goes on and on and on, and eventually you just get triggered. You're like
Yeah, I
you might
started
have to
doing
fight
other
back a couple
things.
convulsions.
I was like,
You
I'm gonna keep
too,
the movie
okay?
on, but I'm gonna just I'll rejoin once this stops.
Mm, not a good time. Eventually, they end up surviving the storm, and the house staff, for lack of a better word, is working on cleaning up everyone's vomit, and everyone has vomited everywhere. It's at some point it's a question of, well, did someone eat some bad fish or a bad octopus, or was it the motion sickness that got to him? But at some point, everyone, it's a chain reaction. Everyone starts vomiting. Everyone gets ill.
Except for
Everyone
the
is not having a
captain
good night.
who had burger. He didn't eat
The
the
captain who
food.
had a burger,
So
but he
that's why
gets
it was the
super
food.
duper stupid drunk.
Yeah.
Him and this Russian oligarch, or just a rich Russian guy. It's not important what his title is. He's just rich. He in fact he even says it multiple times with pride, like, I made my fortune off of shit. Scooping up shit. And he has a whole monologue and it's very Tarantino-esque. And there's interesting character development. I wish it was done better. At some point, again, we survive the storm. People are trying to clean themselves off, and then pirates invade, and then explosions happen. And I think one of the reasons this movie got a Best Picture nomination, and we will get into that in a little bit here, is because so, a couple who is like, yeah, we make weapons, we make landmines, we make IUDs, we make hand grenades, and they ultimately get exploded with a hand grenade of their own. It's kind of weird. Like, yeah, I
Is this
guess
one of the
there's
house?
elderly. Is this one of ours? This woman should have recognized that if this was one of theirs,
Get rid of
even
it.
if it wasn't one of theirs, it's missing its pin. And yes, chuck it over the side. But they didn't. And before the old man can go, wait, they explode. There's gunfire. There's shouts of disdain. And then a bigger explosion. And then we end up on an island. And that's when we're just going to shorten this story up. The, the woman who cleans the toilets on the ship for a living becomes the king of this island, and everyone who inhabits it. And they're just, yeah, the
Because
one of
obviously
the
the rich
models,
people don't know how to look after themselves. So they are
they
now, please help us.
what is weird about that is the Russian guy who created his fortune off of shit, he should also be able to do everything. I don't know if he needs to know how to clean a fish, but yeah, he probably knows how to make a fire. He
Yeah, that was a
probably
bit weird.
knows it's a lot of conveniences for convenience sake, but sure enough, the janitor on the cruise who survived, and by this they had a staff of like what, 80, 100 people, maybe 50, but like it was a big boat and it was a big staff. It
Let's say
wasn't a
50.
big,
Yeah.
let's say 50. Yeah. Anyways, um the janitor ends up demanding that the male model that survived pours himself out for pretzel sticks. It's actually the funniest scene of the film. Where and eventually he does it so many times that just like the rest of the survivors just make fun of him. And yeah, that's a delightful scene. I didn't mind that. I was
With the
like,
whistles.
this is funny. All the whistles. Um, by the way, yeah, like emergency boat nautical whistles. Anyways, this movie at 2.5 hours takes forever to get into.
It
And by
felt
the
like
time,
3 plus.
yeah, that's fair.
It
I
was
think that's fair.
maybe
By
it
the
was
time
the
we get
beginning scene,
to
but
the actual,
the crux of
by
the
the time we get
story,
to the
the
actual
crux of the story
interesting part
was
of the
interesting.
movie, by the time we get to the actual interesting part of the film, it then ends. The movie doesn't have an ending, it just ends.
Fucking
And
hate
it's
that.
one of those where it's open to your interpretation. Does this
Fucking
woman
hate
hit
that.
this other woman with a brick? Or do they get rescued? And he's like, this is where I would like to see the story continue. We've been here for 2 hours. I would like to see this conclude, but it
I
doesn't.
mean, I mean,
Uh,
we can go into spoilers because I think, but we've already said about like, does she hit her with the brick? So I think we've already jumped the shark on this one. So at some point, when they're looking for food, looking for things, whatever, blah, 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 blah,
sure, sure, sure.
they discover that all along they've been on some fancy island resort. And so they're saved.
Mm-hmm.
They're back in reality. And it is, I guess, suggested that the woman, the janitor who cleans the toilets, is upset. She's kind of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my position now. And so she picks
Yep.
up a giant rock and sneaks up behind the only other person who knows the truth. And then it cuts to the man whore
Mm-hmm.
who is running after them. So you're
He's
assuming
running. It's not clear
he knows.
why he's running.
So, but yeah, the only thing that makes sense is that he knows what's about to happen. But then you're like, how? Why would he know that? That doesn't make
It's not
sense.
like the end of Apocalypto where like I just survived being murdered or sacrificed to a Mayan race. Oh, now the white man is coming in by boats. We need to run immediately. It's not like that. It makes no sense why Homeboy is running at the end of that movie.
And then it just literally abruptly ends.
It
Which like
just ends. It doesn't
there,
have an ending. It just ends.
I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, just because my memories. But I know there have been other movies that have utilized this quote unquote storytelling method
Sure.
and done it way better. But this just
Debatable.
seemed like they were doing it for the sake of doing it to be a little bit artsy. And like you said, like, after all
Mm-hmm.
this time I've sat here, I almost felt, no, you owe me a ending to this fucking story. What the fuck? I was
Mm-hmm.
so annoyed. Yeah, I think the first hour and a half, the building of the story, the introduction to these characters was way too fucking long. I thought Woody
Yes.
Harrelson was funny. I wish there was more.
Yes.
But you like you say, it was once it finally got interesting, it was kind of like, oh, you like this movie now? Nope. And it took it. It was like, what the fuck? So
Yeah.
for me, I
And
mean,
it's because of that I have to give this movie a 2 out of 5.
yeah.
It's I don't know how this is a best picture. By the way, not only is this the best picture, this is a best screenplay and a best director, and that's by Ruben Ostlund, who did both.
How can it be
I don't know
best
how this.
screenplay? You didn't even finish it. Finish your
I
fucking
mean, in
story.
his screenplay, it's finished from A to Z. That's the screenplay, but I don't know why this is a best screenplay. I don't know why this is a best director. It's absolutely got a message, but it's lost because it just takes so much goddamn time. Like again, if the movie didn't end when it ended, if we could have chopped out an hour of the first 2 hours and then actually continued from when they find the elevator, that would have probably been a better movie. Like, show me where this is going. Make your statement, but don't just say like, "Eh, there's a class system." Yes, I'm aware of that. Thank you. I understand.
Like, what would have been, I think, just for me, a better way to end this movie
Break it
would
down,
have
my Kush.
been having the maid, the janitor, whatever, go
Yeah,
through
yeah,
with
yeah.
the murder of the young lady,
Mm-hmm.
and then the guy, I don't know why, we still don't know why he's running, but then the guy discovers that this woman has murdered his girlfriend, but then he has this kind of crisis, but then eventually he agrees to kind of like go along with it, and he's like with the janitor woman because early in the movie there is that he already has signs of this. I hate this bullshit. I hate this.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already kind of not about that life, and then it could have
Mm-hmm.
ended. Then it just even if it had been another 10 minutes, this story could have ended so much better. But it's like,
I mean, the male model is a pussy and a bitch at the same time here. It's made very clear in the 20-minute opening about when these two went out for dinner,
oh fuck
and
me, that
then
seems so bad.
the the bill is presented. By the way, traditionally the bill is presented to the man. It was very generous that they just went it right down the middle. But then there's an awkward long. I want to say they went 2 minutes before the man went. Excuse me. The lady went. "Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking care of that." And it's just like, what? Now I'm also obligated to take care of this. And then they go into why this guy feels the way he does. He could just take care of the bill, but guess what? Yesterday, she said she would take care of the bill. And it goes into this whole thing where her credit card is declined and she's overdrawn and etc. and etc. and etc. And it's just these characters fucking suck and you don't want to spend time with them. And it's just not this is not a fun movie. And I don't still understand why it's a best picture. Um, the janitor lady, Dolly DeLeon,
She's fantastic.
Woody Harrelson is the captain who just it's a lot of voiceover. Then we get to hang out with him for 30, 45 minutes, and then he's gone. And then Zakleto uh, Burek, that is the Russian oligarch who
He's
made
very
his
good.
fortune off of shoveling shit. Yeah, he's a great part of this movie. Otherwise, this movie is some bullshit. It's 2 hours, 27 minutes. It's a hard R. It came out last year, September 18th, 2022. It was in theaters for literally a minute, which is why we didn't review it before now. But it had my attention. It apparently got the Academy's attention. It's a best picture plus a best director and a best screenplay. I don't think it's worth any of those, even nomination. But there we are. 2 out of 5. Kush Hayes says, "Please prove me wrong."
100% agree. I think at the beginning, it's almost like almost 4 phases in this movie. Like the beginning bit is annoying and drags on, so that's like 1 out of 5. And then there's a bit on the boat with Woody Harrelson that gets interesting, so maybe that's like a 3. And then the bit on the island, this is actually, I think the island's bit is pretty. That's almost like a 5 out of 5. That is fantastic. The storytelling in that bit is fantastic, and then the ending is one. It's just like it's just. If this wins, I will riot.
I wouldn't put your boots on just yet.
Triangle of Sadness.
Suck it!
Oh, I'm so glad I'm wearing green. Look at that. I can DX chop that. I'm like one of the game. 2 out of 5. Triangle of Sadness. Peace out.
That's all, folks.